We can talk about beginner resources. There's an important one to talk about. A lot of you guys, I'm sure, have been playing Plus R lately, right? And all over my Twitter timeline, I saw like beginner tournaments, right? So I saw like Pat the Flip was tweeting about a beginner tournament. And you know, my Discord has these beginner tournaments. Weeb Cup is usually an anime game, and then Hoop Cup is Street Fighter most of the time. I know that like James and David have a beginner tournament. Because there's obviously COVID and none of you guys can go to tournaments, we can't go to events or anything. People are just kind of trying lots of different fighting games. If you guys have ever jumped on a game like Plus R, or Exert is a good example. If you've ever played Exert in your life, or any game where like you get in, you're a little late, you're like, let me go online and play. And you fight someone who is like 5 million times. They have 9 million games on their record. You play them and you just get absolutely fucking destroyed. And you're like, okay, well, that wasn't a close match. Let me try again. And you go and spend all this time searching for an opponent near your skill level. And you're just like, dude, it's so hard to find someone who I have competitive matches with, and that's important for growth as a player. And I think a lot of people are struggling to find that for certain games, and lately we're seeing it a lot with online events. So I think they're very effective tools for helping new players, right? Anywhere you can gather new or intermediate players for fighting games is super important, because generally when it's online, it's kind of a bit harder to always find someone, right? It feels like everybody you run into is a super experienced player and you're like, what the fuck? Especially because in Plus R, it's such an old game. I like watching beginner events. Obviously, I do a lot of teaching on my channel, so watching beginner events really helps me find out like, yeah, that's something that people who are new struggle with. So anyway, I wanted to show you guys a clip from Weeb Cup that I saw in the Discord that was fucking hilarious. Another important part about being in one of these events is that you not only get to practice against other beginner players, but your matches will be on stream, which is like really nice, because then you can go back and watch them and see like, all right, what the fuck did I do wrong?
Okay, slides under. Opportunity for infinity. Oh my god. You got a shit. Oh my god. When did it go so?
This edit is so good. The fucking hit marker noise. Yep, it was the intervention. Got a 360 no scope. Professional ass Kai player. That's what I'm talking about. That's for sure. These moves, you gotta shake out of them. If you don't try to shake out of this,
Opportunity for infinity.
he just does this and you get stuck in the fucking hit marker loop. You just keep getting tagged, right? So you gotta shake out. You know, this is how you learn. And this is the kind of stuff you expect. I mean, it's a beginner / intermediate tournament, right? This is a good learning moment. Normally, you know, I would say go to your offline scene, find people in your community who you can play with, etc., right? Which is not always easy for people, even before, but now obviously is not an option. So finding online training partners who, first of all, are not shitheads to hang out with, second of all, are near your skill level is very important. In relation to this, what I was going to say too is when I went to Japan, right? The way they would do offline events is that the level of play would scale up. So at like the larger venues, they would have labeled machines. So for Street Fighter, for instance, it'd be like, hey, if you're 0 points to 5,000 points, play on these like 2 or 3 setups. And there's like people there all night. If you're from 5,000 to 7,500, play on this setup. If you're 7,500 to this rank, play on this setup, right? And then it was like, if you're diamond or up, you play in this area and it scales, right? So there's rows of consoles, and if you're like just hit diamond, you go on this row, and then better and better, and then the last row is like all the professional players are standing over there playing, right? So having that ability to easily find people who are your level offline is very cool, because it was just labeled. I hope we see that more, because I thought that was really cool. Even in the Japanese locals or places where they don't have them labeled, it's the same way. Momochi Studio doesn't have specific labels, if I remember correctly, but the way it worked was the setups near the door were beginner setups. So you kind of saw the play and you picked a spot based on that. And then as you went down the line, it was more and more experienced players. And then the last machine was, instead of a 1st to 2 machine, it was like a 1st to 3 machine, and people only played there if they were very good, which I think really helps for offline events as well, so that like when you're playing casuals, you have an idea of who you're playing with and how good they are, and making sure you're playing players that are a similar skill level. Anyway, if you guys are looking for beginner or intermediate tournaments, if you want Street Fighter, you should check out the one in the Discord, or you should check out James and David's, or if you're looking for anime related stuff, check out something like Caliburst or the one in my Discord. People will post announcements in my Discord for tournaments all the time. I highly recommend signing up for them. The worst thing in the world that could happen is that you lose, and then after you lose, you're like, well, okay, and then you play more games. That's the worst case scenario. Y'all do noob Skullgirls tournaments? I don't think we've run Skullgirls, but there's a rotation on the games that they run, and I'm sure you can find a beginner Skullgirls tournament. I'm positive. Or at least beginner Skullgirls players. Yeah, I'm sure people will be down. Once the GG beta is over and people are looking for other stuff to play, especially. Listen. I heard a certain Kai player say, everybody I run into is playing Kai. The mirror is just so boring. You know what? That's why Kai sucks. You ever hear a Soul player be like, ugh, the mirror? Soul players are like, fuck yeah, bro, saddle up, yeehaw, and they just start bandit bringering when they see another Soul player. Everybody's flying around, the fucking speakers are breaking, shit's shaking, everybody's having the time of their life. Kai mirrors, they're like, ugh.